Ricardo Lopez, Cranston, Rhode Island. So I think it's been pretty evident that the biggest welfare recipients are on Wall Street. These are the biggest criminals. They've rigged the LIBOR rates, which have created artificial fiscal problems for local governments, school boards. We know that we've given them government bailout. We know that the Fed buys their worthless securities through quantitative easing. We're talking on the order of billions a month, which amounts to trillions and trillions of dollars that go to the most criminal financial institutions that have been involved in money laundering. Now, there is a bill to restore Glass-Steagall. Most of you that know the history about FDR taking on the Wall Street crooks from a wheelchair know that he regulated the banks and instituted principles of the Constitution for a reason. Because, as he said, we needed to throw the money changers out of the temple. Will you help make sure that your colleagues on the Hill stop acting like prostitutes for Wall Street and fight to restore Glass-Steagall? Thank you.
So I haven't co-sponsored that bill yet, but I'm certainly open-minded to it and looking at it. I don't sit on the House Finance Committee, and it's something that I think we need to continue to look at because I want to make sure that Wall Street and our banking system primarily is operating for the benefit of the consumers and not the bankers or wealthy corporations. So I will continue to support pro-consumer legislation, and I will continue to look at the Glass-Steagall implementation legislation. But your point's well taken, and I do appreciate you raising it.
But why are you hesitating?
Hold on, let's.
Well, I know that right now there's a variety of things that we're doing to achieve consumer protection, including standing up the Consumer Protection Agency, and I'd like to give that entity an opportunity to function, and they'll be making recommendations to us as they encounter problems with the existing, with the legislation that's been enacted or the Consumer Protection Agency as it's been stood up. So I'm not opposed to it, but a bill has not come to the floor yet, and I have not heard back yet from them as to what we need to do to better protect consumers. So I want to give things a little bit of a chance to work, and if it doesn't, then I would very favorably venture to signing on to the Glass-Steagall legislation.
Hi, Congressman. My name is Ryan McCusker. I'm from Cranston. And I want to preface my question to you with a vision that I shared that reflects my understanding of our nation's history, which is that when George Washington defeated the British militarily, he worked with Alexander Hamilton to charter a national bank. And that national bank funded public infrastructure projects, which were instrumental in promoting domestic production. They imposed tariffs to protect domestic manufacturers and agriculture. And afterwards, later presidents were inspired to follow in that tradition, such as John Quincy Adams with canal construction and also railway production. And later, Lincoln, during the Civil War, with the greenback system, financed the world's most modern transportation system with rail production throughout the continent. Later, after the destruction wreaked upon our nation by Wall Street, Franklin Roosevelt and Pecora prosecuted those bankers and built large water and power projects to improve the health of our communities across the country. Later, presidents with visions such as Eisenhower with the Atoms for Peace program and Kennedy with the Apollo project and his vision for fusion energy and the benefits that turning that technology into an energy source for the world would have. What I see is that this is the time where we have a crisis being created by Wall Street. And we have legislation which would rightfully precede their prosecution in a new Pecora Commission. And that legislation is Glass-Steagall. There's a House bill. Sheldon Whitehouse has signed on as Senator of Rhode Island to the Senate bill. And I see a bright future that would create economic prosperity, productivity, and that's what inspires me to ask you to sign on to Glass-Steagall.
I appreciate the question. I haven't ruled it out. And the question came up earlier about signing on to the legislation. I want to see how the reforms pan out that we've enacted by creating the Consumer Protection Agency and the other things that we have done to try to rein in Wall Street and making sure that consumers are protected and providing real opportunities. I have not ruled out signing on to the legislation, but not being a member of that committee, I'm not as tuned into specifically what ramifications that bill would have, but I am concerned about making sure that what we just went through with one of the worst economic downturns in our country's history never happens again. And if I feel that the things that we have done to protect consumers is not effective, and it's not having the desired effect, or it's not moving fast enough, then I would take a hard look at signing on to that bill.
Well, if I could just respond to that. The Dodd-Frank Act, Title II of that act, has a bail-in provision. This orderly liquidation authority directly reflects what happened to depositors in Cyprus in Europe. And the consequence was that bank depositors were asked to bail in a criminal institution. People were looted of their ability to provide for their families and for their future generations. And Dodd-Frank is criminal. It was written by the criminals, which you're maybe asking me to envision that law would rein in. I understand that Glass-Steagall does rein in these criminals, so I'm not satisfied with the present law, and I don't trust who wrote it. And so I would like for you to reflect that if you read Title II, you'll see that it is not orderly bankruptcy, and in fact is the opposite of the provisions in Glass-Steagall.
Your point's well taken, and I can't say that I disagree with what you've raised. I want a little more time to see if the reforms that we've enacted through Dodd-Frank, if they would be effective, and at the end of the day, maybe you're going to be right, and if I'm not satisfied that it's moving fast enough, it's not providing enough protection, then I'd be open to looking at signing on to Glass-Steagall.